Good evening, New York State PTA members. We are so excited to be here at Summer Leadership Conference. I'm Executive Director Kyle Belakavitsky, and joined by our fantastic Education Coordinator, Megan Zarkey. We are going to talk a little bit about hot topics. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to jump right in. We're hoping to go only about 20 minutes so we can actually dig really into some of these questions that we're going to go through. So let's see what we have. Hot topics in education, Megan and Kyle. And as always, thank you so much for being our fantastic member and all that you do for our children. If you have any topics you'd like to discuss, please add them right to the chat. We're going to keep a list. So Megan and I have our little notepads right here. We're going to keep a list of things that you'd like to cover. Here are the things that we're going to cover real quickly. We're going to talk about reopening plans, new guidance that's coming out, and what fall may look like. We're going to talk about vaccines, masks, and COVID testing in schools. We are going to talk about special education and diplomas to pathways. We're going to talk about school aid and the American Rescue Fund money, the federal money that's coming into schools right now. We're going to talk about arts and music education, so critical and something that we unfortunately kind of lost a little bit during COVID. We're going to talk a little bit about mental health and social emotional learning, and we're going to talk about family engagement. Whew, that's going to be a quick 20 minutes. So we're going to get going. Let me talk a little bit about reopening, and then I'm going to transition over to Megan for some fantastic curriculum stuff. So we have, as a reminder, a New York State PTA COVID-19 webpage. Here is the link. If you go to our webpage and you hit, and you go in the top left corner, it says COVID-19. We keep all really relevant information there. So it's really important. I really would like you to check out that page if you haven't yet. We're going to talk a little bit about the new New York State DOH summer school guidance. We're going to talk a little bit about the new CDC guidance, and we're going to talk a little bit about expected fall guidance, because we just had a meeting yesterday with the governor's office. So let's move forward. Now, again, type in that chat. We're going to try to answer questions. We're going to take all of your questions after this presentation. So I just want to put that out there. So this was the New York State summer school guidance that we received on July 6th that went into effect immediately from DOH. This changed the rules for summer school. This guidance says that there was options based on your COVID transmission rate. Basically, generally, this gave school districts at the local discretion the optional to be mask optional for summer school. So many school districts did go mask optional for summer school, again, using distancing, using heightened cleaning, based again on their community transmission rates. So I want to make sure everyone is aware of this. Also, school districts no longer have to use that daily report card. Remember that COVID report card that we've been using. So that was dropped because our COVID rates are reasonably low, obviously now in New York State. So I just want to make sure this is out there. I'm not going to read through this, but we put a lot of information in these slides just so you guys can kind of, have the information when we post the slides after, if that makes sense. Megan, I know you're in a school building. Megan's one of our fantastic educators. So we're so excited to have her perspective on some of this work. And again, thank you to Megan and thank you to all of our educators. Listen, you did heroic, amazing things this past year. I know, Megan, you did for your students. We have many school teachers and classroom teachers and school-related professionals in our leadership and in our units, of course, and our members. So thank you so much. So just as a reminder, for summer school right now, your school district can adopt a mask optional policy for summer school programs, just as an FYI. Moving forward, CDC had issued just last week new reopening school guidance. And here is kind of, I'll say there's two slides, I'll go back and forth, the highlights, key highlights of that guidance. Again, the CDC is saying we really need to focus on in-person instruction for every child. So, and we'll talk about our positions, but we really feel strongly every child has to have a seat if they want that seat come September. They're saying, they are still suggesting that masks should be worn or could be worn by those who are unvaccinated in school buildings. As a reminder, New York State has said that for summer school, at least, we are mask optional here in New York State. CDC, again, really wants us to kind of focus on that at least 3 feet of physical distancing between students in classrooms. Again, combined with indoor mask wearing, that's, an effective strategy. One thing that's important is that the CDC had said on places places like buses, there really is no flexibility. So if we're on school buses, we're still going to be in mass. I anticipate we're still going to be in mass in September on school buses in places like that. And so just some distinctions in the CDC. The CDC, however, does give flexibility. And again, these are other things that school districts should be looking at. Again, many school districts serve under the age of 12 who are not yet able to be vaccinated. So they want school districts to kind of look at, again, a layered approach, whether that's some type of mask usage, whether that's some type of course, distancing, mandatory distancing, things like that. So very, very similar to what we saw last school year for the CDC guidance. However, two things. They said have to be back in school come September. Critically important. Let's get all of our kids back to school. And again, there is some flexibility in this CDC's guidance with masking, is what we're seeing now in New York State implement with our summer school program. Again, not going to go through these, but the bullets are all here. We also have the link to the CDC guidance at the bottom. So that's really exciting. I want to cover some time on this. It's really important. New York State PTA reopening positions. So it is our position as an association that we support that parent's choice in whether or not their child is going to mask in a school building. Right now, outside New York State school buildings, no masks. Masks are not required outside a school building at all. And so we have talking to state policymakers. I said, we talked with the governor's office yesterday again, that we are saying 100% full focus on the reopening of all school buildings come September, that all parents and families should have that option to send their child in to a seat in front of one of our fantastic classroom educators like Megan 5 days a week. Again, we want to look at things like, and we list them here, reproduction rates, positivity rates, community spread, vaccination rates of staff and students, and where we are in herd immunity. Now, New York State has hit the 70% threshold for herd immunity, which is fantastic. But again, as we continue to climb in that vaccination rate, that's very important to continue to look at. As we know, we would advocated back in spring, outdoor masks we should be eliminated. They were eliminated at that point. And again, we had said indoor mask usage should be analyzed again on that school district and community basis based on really community spread and positivity rates. So another really important thing that we are talking about now is really a focus on academic intervention services. Megan, talk a little bit about academic intervention services and what we really have to focus on. We had, some will call it, for lack of a better term, a COVID learning loss. What does that look like now as students go back into schools in September?
Thank you, Kyle. Typically, traditional AIS services include pullouts for reading, for mathematics, for other academic subjects where students may be experiencing not quite on grade level, need a little bit of extra help. This is definitely different from straight special education services, which we'll get into a little bit later on in this presentation. As you could imagine, from the 3 months that we were shut down from March through June 2020, and some of the inconsistencies in in-person education throughout the 2020-21 school year, as you can imagine, a lot more students are going to be experiencing a lot more, as they call them, learning losses. So districts are really going to have to focus quite a bit this coming school year on catching up students, so to speak, to where they should be on grade level, giving that extra support, especially to those students who needed that extra support to begin with. So we're going to be on the lookout for districts to be spending a lot of time playing that sort of catch up over the next year. I would say over the next 2 years as well.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic. Megan's going to talk a little bit later about how some of that federal money, actually 20% of it has to go to learning loss, which is really exciting. One of those things that the feds are putting an emphasis on. So let's reshare our screen. We're going to go back to our presentation. And I know we're going through this really quickly, so that's why we want to kind of hit the highlights and then go to live chat. Again, so we have our positions here. These are the things that we are continuing to talk about. Very importantly, we do not support a mandatory vaccine vaccine of our children. We have said this repeatedly to state leaders, so we do not anticipate that. There is no discussion right now, and I want to be clear on that, of a mandatory COVID vaccine for our children. One thing that you as a parent and family should be doing right now, however, is you should be talking with your pediatrician and with your family about whether or not this is right for your child. As a reminder, 12 and above right now qualify for the Pfizer vaccine. I know I get asked a lot of times, my son's going to be 12 in 2 weeks, and we did have that conversation with him and his pediatrician, and we are going to have him vaccinated. So that's an important conversation that you must really be having now with your pediatrician and your child and family to see if this is right for your family. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now is that many of the deaths are from unvaccinated people in our hospitals now. And, again, a vaccine is a choice, and we fully support that choice. But now is really the time for you as a family to kind of make that decision for your child, especially if they are older than 12. We have continuing conversations with Pfizer in particular, and it's our understanding, and they have reported publicly, that they are looking for a possible vaccine to be above a 5 or 6 and above this coming winter. So stay information for that. Another thing that's really important is we also do support, type of COVID testing in schools. We're going to see, I think, this more in September again, but this should be optional for students. We do not support mandatory testing, and of course with always parental approval. So we have many students. I think my son has had probably 20 COVID tests at this point. I had COVID, so he was tested a number of times to make sure he was okay. But for the school-based testing, it is the low nasal test. It's not the the one that goes all the way up, which was so painful in the beginning. I had that one too. But that I expect that will be a continuing strategy for September. Let's move forward a little bit. Megan, talk a little bit now, because we had some changes in graduation requirements because of COVID, and then we're going to talk about moving forward what that's going to look like. Megan?
No problem. Thanks, Kyle. For those of you who had high school and middle school students who were taking Regents level classes, as you know, COVID absolutely changed the game over the past couple of years in terms of administration of Regents exams. As a result of school closures and learning loss, no Regents exams were offered in June 2020, August 2020, or January 2021. Back in the spring, the state education department asked for a waiver from the federal government for the June 2021 administration of exams. Unfortunately, that was denied. So as a result, the state education department decided we're only going to offer 4 Regents exams about a month ago, this past June. In order to hit our Every Student Succeeds Acts testing requirements. Algebra 1, Earth Science, the ELA Regents, and the Living Environment Biology. But new this year, due to some districts learning in a hybrid environment, some districts in and out with remote, in person, parents and students were actually allowed to, in essence, opt out of taking Regents exams this year. So how does this affect graduation requirements moving forward? We've shared a couple of links right here in our slide presentation right here. So students are allowed Regents exemptions. And if they are allowed that exemption, they're not required to take that particular Regents exam at any point during their high school career. If they pass the Regents class, they don't take the Regents exam, they in essence receive Regents credit for that class. So if we share the next couple of slides, you can see we're going to post this on the NYS PTA website along as well as in this presentation when we share it. It's a lot of information right here just to kind of give you an idea of what the credit requirements are and some of the different special considerations given some of the changes due to COVID learning. And just as a reminder as well, about 3 or 4 the original timeline to work on the Blue Ribbon Commissioners Committee is right here. Obviously, we had to press pause on working on this because COVID changed the game. we expect this work to pick up again at some point during the school year. New York State PTA will be and continue to be a stakeholder on this commission. So more on this to come. This is just what the original timeline was at the time.
And Megan, as you know, this commission really is going to focus on our exit requirements. So New York State has the highest exit requirements with 5 regions, or a 4-in-1 pathway requirement. And I know we have our pathways here, and you'll talk about this briefly, but this commission is really going to focus on, is this the right thing for New York? Now that we've had some flexibility for COVID, I think it's going to make this commission's work a little bit harder.
Absolutely. About 3-4 years ago, New York State Education Department, in conjunction with stakeholders, and NYS PTA was one of them, developed our Pathways to Graduation options. And this infographic on this slide right here kind of gives you an idea of the basics of them. 4 required New York State's Regents examinations. You see them here, 1 social studies as well, plus 1 pathway, and the choose from any one of those there. And that link at the bottom there will also give you more details as to what those pathways are for parents of high school students. Definitely speak to your child's guidance counselor, to their school administration, as to which one of these pathways is right for your child.
And Megan, I know, and you know, I'm so happy with the work of PTA and grassroots stakeholders and multiple pathways to graduation, and so many of our parent groups that worked on this. So a few years ago now, as you remember, the Board of Regents passed a superintendent's determination for diploma. Again, not going to read all these slides, but I'll never forget, we had one of our vice president's sons who benefited from a superintendent's diploma come up to a regents meeting with us and talk to then Commissioner Elia and really plead his personal case on why he felt he deserved a meaningful diploma. I still tear up thinking about the work that was done on this across the state. So many parents, so many advocates, so many families, and thankfully the Board of Regents absolutely stepped up to the plate, and we now have a new superintendent's determination for students that have a current IEP and are receiving special education services at the parent and child request. So this is very exciting. Here are the rules I'll say to that. You know, we've had now thousands upon thousands of students in the last few years receive a meaningful high school diploma with the superintendent's determination. We're very, very proud of that work. Again, here's information on that. If you have any more questions on that, please feel free to reach out to us. A little bit on our PTICs. So PTICs are Parent Training and Information Centers. These are federally funded and state-supported centers all across New York State that are here to help parents and families of students with disabilities. We also have at the top of this link here, and check it out if you haven't, it's the New York State PTA Special Education page. In addition, as you know, we have special education PTAs across New York State that are doing fantastic work for children. So really excited about these PTICs. We have a statewide PTIC that serves everybody except for Long Island and New York. In this presentation, there are links, and again, this is going to be up on the website, so you can link right to your PTIC. Again, and it's broken down by county, as you can see. This state education department also has their own special education page, which is fantastic. They have an assistance for parents page, as they call it. Again, we've linked right to the pathways for graduation options with students with disabilities. There's an IEP facilitation program that state education runs to help families. Again, the state education department also has regional offices with staff that will help parents through these processes. Parents and Parent of New York State is one of our collaborating partners too that also does some of this work. And we have a fantastic special education coordinator, and Megan is our education coordinator, and myself and our family engagement coordinator has significant experience in this as well. So we are here as a resource to you. I will say before we move on, I'm very, 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 very proud of the work New York State PTA and advocates did at the end of session. We had a unique situation where in the past, the end of 2020 school year and the end of 2021 school year, we had students that kind of aged out. So they were in a 21-year-old program, they aged out of the program. But we realized those past years weren't really what that student needed to successfully transition. So we worked ferociously, I'll say, with some of them are Abenanti and Senator Shelley Mayer, who's always fantastic, and Senator Harcum to actually pass legislation to say, hey, school districts, these students that are aged out, let's bring them back in. So if you're watching this and your child had an IEP that was an extended year program and until the age of 21, and they aged out in the past 1920 or 2021 school year, then they may be eligible to actually for services again, even though they are aged out. We call them, of course, compensatory services. So if you are in that situation, please give us a call at the state office or talk to your school district directly about that. Call your principal, call your committee on special education coordinator, call your special education coordinator, because your child now, again, because of really the work of SED and the work of the Senate, the Assembly, and the work of the governor's office, we're trying to provide services to those aged out children for this coming couple of school years. So that's really important. I wanted to mention that. Megan?
Yes, and before I talk about federal funds, thank you so much to NYS PTA for paving a path for students like my own. Or children like my own as well. I have a rising second grader and a rising kindergartner, both with special needs. So thank you for paving all of these pathways for them, because it's going to make it easier for when they're older, when we're fighting the good fight for them.
Always, Megan.
Awesome. Federal funds, that's always a hot topic because show me the money, right? How can school districts run without federal funds? So the American Rescue Plan, which was signed into law about 4 months ago, it provides for about 1.9 trillion in federal stimulus money, expanded and extended unemployment benefits, expansion in child tax credit, earned income tax credit, all those informational bullet points there. The big thing is that it really expands for education funding, as you can see there in the bullet points. 125.4 billion in state pre-K through 12 public education programs, 3 billion for the funding for IDEA, which again links into what Kyle was just talking about, very important funding. 7.2 billion for the federal E-rate program, which will be extended to provide devices and connectivity to students, educators, and patrons of public libraries. So critical right now as we forge forward for one-to-one devices in school districts and continued increased connectivity and the like. And then the ARPA elementary secondary school emergency relief for K through 12 schools, again, that 125.8 billion number for K through 12 state education agencies. 2.75 billion to governors for private schools to enroll a significant percentage of low-income students who are most impacted by the qualifying emergency. ED must reserve 800 million to support efforts to identify homeless children and youth and to provide them with comprehensive wraparound services. And SEAs must subgrant not less than 90% of its total allocation from this relief to help meet a wide range of needs arising from the coronavirus pandemic. Again, going back to some of the AIS academic intervention services that we talked about earlier in this presentation, and continued support. So LEA must reserve at least 20% of funds to address learning loss. Remaining funds may
And I'm going to interrupt, Megan. And for those watching at home, an LEA is a local education agency. So that is your local school district. So your local school district in getting their federal fund allocation, which they all know now how much they got. Those numbers were just released. They have to have 20% of those funds go to address learning loss. Megan?
Yes, I know in my home school district, that has been a hot topic of conversation. Where is that money going? So if you're not sure, reach out to your Board of Education superintendent, assistant super for business, and they can hopefully give you a better idea. All politics is local. Go to your Board of Ed meetings.
Absolutely.
So remaining funds may be used for a wide range of activities, including, and you see all these bullet points here, all of these things to promote social emotional learning, learning loss, health and safety of schools, school buildings, school districts, all of that here, you can see that here. So, you know, the federal government has really stepped up to the plate with its funding here.
And Megan, I know we know it's April, in March and April 2021 seem like forever ago now. I mean, it's only a few months, but we so applaud the legislature and the governor's office for really stepping up this year and fully funding foundation aid. So New York State in our state aid received a fantastic school aid package across the state. Now, there, you know, I'll say there's always winners and losers, unfortunately, in all of these for how the formula runs and how the school aid runs. If you have questions on your state aid, your local package from New York State, again, feel free to reach out anytime at my email. My email will be at the end. But so we've had now an infusion of state funds and an infusion of federal funds. So we're looking forward to this coming school year and returning to what is our new normal. Megan?
Hi. So this is something very near and dear to me. Some of you may know me, may recognize my name. I am actually a music educator in Nassau region. I just finished my 18th year of teaching. I've done a combination of elementary orchestra. I just finished my first year in the middle of a pandemic of middle school orchestra and general music. So this is something very near and dear to my heart. So back when Every Student Succeeds Act was passed in the mid 2010s, the federal law made music and art standalone common branch subjects. Now, as you all know, music and art and theater and dance are all listed within the New York State Commissioner Part 100 education regulations, but believe it or not, music and arts education is not listed in New York State education law as a common branch subject. And unfortunately, as some of you on this workshop may know, we saw some pretty substantial cuts to music and art programs, some out of necessity, unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, and otherwise. And because these subjects are not codified within the state education law, it allows districts to kind of get wiggly, for lack of a better word, with what the how to fulfill the seat time mandates for music instruction, art instruction, and the like. So it absolutely creates a ton of major inequities in terms of access to music programs and art programs in the schools across New York State. I am a proud member of the New York State School Music Association, NYSMA, as well as my local music education associations. And we have been advocating up in Albany tirelessly for the support and passage of one bill in the state Senate, one bill in the state assembly to make sure that the state education law aligns with the federal ESSA law. Unfortunately, despite our efforts, these bills, you can see the numbers right there, are still stalled in the Education Committee up in Albany. So we're waiting on bated breath for the new legislation.
We're gonna work on this in January. So this is the January.
We're waiting for that to open up again. So we are going to continue, and NYS PTA is going to join efforts with state arts education advocacy groups statewide to push for the passage of these bills, which would make New York State the first in the entire country to properly align state education law with federal law in making music and the arts education standalone common branch subjects. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's going to be fantastic. And Megan, if you believe it, we only have 3 minutes left of our half hour. I know it goes by so quick. So we're going to kind of fly through these ending slides and then go right to live questions. So just real quickly, as you know, continuing focus on mental health and social emotional learning for our association and for our schools. We have on our website, if you go to leaders and then down to training resources, we have fantastic mental health, a number of, I think there's a half a dozen now, mental health and wellness and child wellness webinars we want you to check out. We also have linked on our website under Alliance Partners or in our virtual exhibit hall, information from the Mental Health Association in New York State, a fantastic New York State PTA partner who's really focusing on school-based mental health. We're so excited to work with partners like Go Guardian and others the School Counselors Association, and Bob Rotunda and his group to really focus on mental health. Because what we know is these fast facts, really. Half of all mental illnesses actually begin by the age of 14. We're talking about, again, half of the cases of lifetime anxiety, which my son, as you all know, I know many of you know me, has a severe anxiety disorder developed by the age of 8. He was 5. So so again, check out our website on mental health and social emotional learning. Real quick, Megan.
Oh, sorry. National PTA initiative right now is the Center for Family Engagement. There's all sorts of amazing resources, webinars, past and present, other resources on the National PTA website. And this infographic here kind of gives you an idea of what our goals are in terms of family engagement, that it's inclusive, individualized, integrated, and impactful for all families, state and nationwide.
And really important, check out the New York State PTA Family Engagement page. So go up to parents and programs and you'll see that information there. One to-do item, I know we're giving you a lot of to-do items. You're going to talk to your principal about how they're going to use those American funds. You're going to talk to your principal about special education and COVID learning loss and AIS. Now you're going to talk to your principal about family engagement, because every single school building and school district in New York State has to have a written family engagement policy that is developed in conjunction with their parents and families. This is a fantastic role for PTA to say, hey, principal, hey, superintendent, we have to have this written family engagement policy. We're here to help you. So add that to your agenda. Again, in the presentation, we have a number, and see the ESSA up there requirement. We have a number of family engagement resources for you. So we're going to post this so you can click on all of these. And my goodness, we came in under 30 seconds, Megan, so perfect timing. And I always like to end our presentations with this. Dr. Seuss is one of my favorite authors. And this slide, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, it's not going to get better. It's not. We know that this work is hard. Megan and I both have young school-age children. Megan is in a doubly dutied in a classroom, in a school building. We know PTA work is hard. We know it is challenging. We know there are 1,000 other things that could drive your time. But I want you to know, I firmly believe with all of my heart, that there is no more other important work than you can do to support the children in your school buildings. Oh, look, I tear up when I think about it. To support the children in your school buildings, to support your families, and to support New York State school children. Because if your children in your school building may not need that extra helping hand or that extra assistance, then the school district next to you may need that help. That's what PTA is about. We're here to shine a light on every child with one voice, and together we will make a difference. And this is our contact information. Please reach out to us. So Megan is education@nyspta.org. She is fantastic. Know that she is a teacher. So if you email her between teaching hours and off summer, please wait till she gets home so she can answer you. My email is here, execdirector@nyspta.org. Our office phone number is there. Please call anytime. You have a fantastic set of region directors who do that work. Their contact information is on our webpage. We are so excited to be here, and we are so excited to now leave 15 whole minutes to talk your live questions. So Megan and I, as this has been going on, have been keeping a list of questions. So we are going to moderate that live. So we're going to flip over from the video to live stream. Megan, final closing words.
You said it best. Support your child. It's going to help support every child. So firm believer in that. And looking forward to working with all of the parents, teachers, and students across New York State in this role.
You're so excited. I know we're so excited to have Megan because she's new to our board, and her enthusiasm is just contagious. I'll say an old timer now at 5 years, so I know you're used to me. Okay, we're going to switch live. I want everyone to have a fantastic rest of your conference. We are always here to support you, and have a great day.